Thank you very much, Emer and Andrew. That was lovely. I love that last song. Very haunting, isn't it? And usually everybody says the same, but it is beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you very much. It's gorgeous. So, Tríona, where are you? There you are, front seat. So, Tríona, it's your turn now. Okay. So, Tríona, I'll just let you know a little bit about her. She comes from Dublin. Okay, and. Lucan, is that okay? And she was telling us in the afternoon that during COVID, you're only allowed to walk everywhere and you'd go out and whatever, there was nobody around. She went into the local cemetery, is that right, in Lucan? So she discovered all these interesting headstones, and there was an OBE person there was a poet buried there. Was that the OBE person?
He's Francis himself.
Yep. Yeah.
The author of The Quiet Man.
The Quiet Man. The author of The Quiet Man, yes. Very good.
Curious and interesting.
Yeah. And also the Fost family, who run all the circuses, they have a plot there as well, and the headstone is in the shape of a big tent. So you had a great time that afternoon, didn't you? Went on with loads of stories. Anyway, that's where you've still got stories in you, haven't you, Tríona? So you're a best-selling author, you write crime novels, and you're translated internationally. Right, so when they write your name Tríona, do they put the father in for you? Oh, they do, good. Yeah. I saw 2 books this afternoon, and they had the father, and I thought that's great, marvellous. Yeah, you go, girl. Yeah. Okay. So you're the winner of the Molly Keane and the Jonathan Swift competitions. Yes. And as a young person, a few years ago, I'm being mixed bold now. You loved Agatha Christie, which is very nice, very good, commendable, and John Grisham, sorry. And at the moment, well, more up to date, you like Kate Atkinson and Jane Casey. Are you mad about Jane Casey? Absolutely right, okay. Alright, right, okay, well, we'll keep an eye on you, so. Anyway, so the location, she likes writing her crime novels and setting them in Ireland. Yeah, which is lovely. It's great to see somebody writing a crime novel. You don't know who's done what. She says she loves having loads of murders and everything. And like the programme Taggart on the telly, every time I listen to that, and your man would come in and be really grumpy, there's been no murder. So yeah, so there's been a murder of somebody dead. Anyway, there's one set in Englishmore, and then you have a fictional hall called Moore Hall in Forest, near Forest in Mayo.
Based on real Butler Hall.
Oh, Butler Hall, grand.
Mine's Butler Hall, Moore Hall's real.
Yeah. Say that again, Tríona.
I've actually
I'm the Mayo man here. Moore Hall's the real hall.
Oh, thank you.
Trina's Hall is fictional. It's based inspired.
Moore Hall.
Moore Hall
is real. Oh, thank you very much. I'm okay now. Yes. And then your most recent one is set in Donegal, around Follett Lighthouse. So you've got to get to read. They're very good. Yeah, they're good. Brilliant. You know, when you're lying awake at night and you want to fall asleep and you want to get into a nice crime novel. Now, the number of entries for the short story competition that Tríona adjudicated were 226. And I did get a bit of a heart attack when I heard that. Thought, oh my God, how are you going to get through all that? But you did very well. Marvellous. So you had contestants from Dublin, Westport, Cavan, Cambodia was one person, Kildare, and I'm sure there were other places, but they were the ones that picked up on. So, Tríona, you need to get up here now and talk about your task as an adjudicator and tell us who the winners were of the short story competition. Thanks. What's that? How's that? Great stuff. First of all, I just thank Festival and everybody for inviting me to educate the competition. It was really interesting having been on the other side for many years. It was kind of very interesting to be the person reading the stories and picking the winners. it turned out there was a lot of reading. I think I worked out at some point how many novels that would have been. But it was a joy. I have to say the standard overall was very high, which this will sound a bit funny, but I was a little bit disappointed in because it made my job so much harder trying to, from such a high standard, pick some winners. But thankfully, and at some point I wondered, would I know these stories when I find them? But thankfully, these gorgeous gems shone out from, as I said, a very, very strong field. So I will start. We had 3 highly commended, and 3 names of stories were The Hate Baby, which was in our house was the favourite title of any story, Summer Work and The Train, and the 3 authors were Tricia McKinney, Jane McGill and Zita McGarry. And I don't think we have with us today. So at that point, those, like the final 6 stories between the 3 highly commended and the first, second and third, they were all fabulous, and it was really it was such a difficult job to narrow them down. So, but narrow them down I had to, that was the job. So in third place, so I'm just given a workshop this afternoon on character and just how vital a character is to the short story, and just why it, you know, when you have rich, developed characters, whether they're good, whether they're bad, whether people like them, just why that is the beating heart of a short story. And this third place was the first story that I came to that made me just stop and went, oh, I love this. I love these characters. I can see these characters. And it's a seemingly simple story of a young man on a bus going home after a night out on a date, and he meets a few people on the bus home, and it was just so well drawn. These were fantastic. These are characters that will stay with me. They were rich, wonderfully voiced, and wonderfully realised characters. And the story was The Detective by Owen O'Reilly. It was our third place. Owen here?
Yes.
Where are you? Come on up, Owen. He was fantastic. Really well. Stood out in the place.
Thank you very much.
So the second story, second place. Now, again, during this workshop this afternoon, somebody asked me, we're going to start talking a little bit about the competition in what had made me stop, what made me look, what I think about stories, and they asked, what about humour? And I said, it can be hard. Humour is very hard, and it might not be rated, it's taken seriously. I said, but if humour is in conjunction with, again, all the fundamentals of a wonderful short story, compelling characters, you know, it can be great. And this story, in second place was, I said, what have I written down here? That it was humorous, but it was also tender and very playful. The opening line, I love the opening line, and was, they're at it again. And I've made a note here where I said that it's the most fun I've had while reading about a cattle mart. But it's a story in a small town, but as often with small town stories, it's about the big human themes. And the language in it, there was real poetry in the language. I have one line here. They talked here every month about their dead mothers and wondered what their lives would have been like if they'd gone to Boston with their brothers. And it's just really beautiful line. And I suppose, I say that this story is called It's Not Unusual, and it's Gerard Reedy.
I'd just like to say my first prize for poetry here about 20 years ago, and I brought along. So I'm winning second prize. I hope I win third prize in 20 years.
I knew this would happen. But I knew if I brought it up, I would kick it. So I think we're going to have to take that risk. Yeah, it's going to go. We all know it's just a matter of time. So, the winner. Now this, oh my goodness, I agonised. My husband's there, John's here, and even he got me read it. And I'm just, again, so the last few stories were all fabulous. But this, when I read this story, I had a look at it. I dug it out when I was coming down here to look at I printed everything out. I printed out all 228, was it? Stories, because just having them in my hand, reading them, and I dug that out to have a look at it before I came down. And on top of the story, I wrote, "Love it," and it was that was my first reaction. I read, and I just instantly, connected with it. So then I went back to look and said, okay, well, I can't just come up and go, I love this. Here's first prize. Why did I love it? What was just so remarkable about this story? So it's a simple story on the surface. We have a man who's lost his wife. His son and his wife live next door. It's a story in some ways, as a loss. He's lost his wife, his son and wife. They've lost their chance to have a family. There's a foster son, adopted son, and he's lost the life he had before, his birth family. But I think with this story, and it's something that's a recurring theme in a lot of short stories that deal with grief and loss. But I think what this story did was it acknowledged that this is part of everybody's life. It is something that we all deal with. The world keeps turning and keeps going on, and this wasn't a sad story. And for each loss that ever this character had, there was an opportunity. While the farmer might have lost his wife, it made him stop, and he thought about returning his land to more natural states, thinking less about the factoriness of farming and more about nature. The couple, they had lost a chance to have their child, but then they turned and found it gave a new life to another child again, and this child who they've fostered has lost and obviously been through a lot, but he now has this new opportunity, this new life. So it was just this lovely, delicate story of balance and subtlety, and I was really touched. The characters felt so authentic and so true to me, and it was a hopeful story in the end, and it was just absolutely lovely. And that story was called Pine Poachers, and Sylvia Culp. I think something I said about this story, a lot of times I wouldn't touch a hair on its head, so I just thought it was beautiful. So I was going to read it for, so I'm delighted you all get to read it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And it was a great honour and a great boost, I have to say, after a tough year to win this. So I really appreciate it so much. I hope you can all bear with me now for hopefully the sound will be okay. I won't just utter too much. The Pine Poachers. The best of the day is gone when the house loosens its grip and Joe drags himself out through the yard and across the fields. As he reaches the boundary hedge, an eye watches him, and the peacock his grandfather had kept for the big house pecks into his memory. Joy and fear fight for space in his chest until he arches forward, revealing a frayed branch, grey and feathered, a lichen scab peeling away. His fingers crumble a piece. He brings it to his mouth and tastes its dryness. He'll have a piece of the place in him now, when he eventually goes, even if the land won't know of his passing, just as it didn't know of Sheila's. He surveys the path he's walked year after year, herding the sheep, hacking the hedges, digging the ditches, always increasing the yield. And for what, in the end? Winded, he crouches down to get his breath. His hand on the ground feels a pulse, and he waits until it steadies. He scratches the claggy soil. Joxer circles back and drops his stick. He nudges his concern before sniffing at the soiled hands. Joe takes the stick and starts to slacken the soil, to give it air. It needs tree roots to meander through it, to loosen it. Above him the hedge rustles and a bird flaps out. The nesting season done, he should cut back now, before the dark of November eats the daylight. Cut back the hawthorn and blackthorn, the ivy-thickened hazel and ash trees, the cow parsley skeletons and nettles, the gorse. Do what he has done every year. And what if he just left it? All those years trailing his father, he never noticed what grew here that is gone now. Wild roses and foxgloves, white spring lace. What else did Sheila point out on their walks when his memories are only of watching the skies telling of the weather? He'll start with this field. He'll fortify the fences to stop the sheep following their old grazing path in, eating the saplings and the young trees he'll plant. His hand shields his eye as the sun comes out to celebrate his vision. Brian might object, but he'd persuade him in the end. Brian's easygoing manner about the farm, the result of having a job in the department up the way, with a pension that would serve him into old age. Not like himself, it was only the few bob from the state one for him. But there is the bit of insurance money from Sheila that he couldn't bring himself to touch. Until now, maybe. He could feel her nodding her approval beside him. He'd still have to keep that damn pine plantation back, though. Continue pulling up the saplings as they seed and creep onto his land. Oblivious to light and to the seasons, it hosts no nests, no songs, no rustling. Only a carpet of shadowed bronze and skirts of skeletal branches under cascades of darkness. He rarely lets his eye wander there, and then only to curse it. The light is leaking out of the sky as he approaches Brian's house from the middle field. A large window that frames their view onto the sliver of lake looks to him like a TV screen, with their daily lives the only show on it. The lack of privacy shames him. The young lad is sitting at the table looking at a laptop. He calls something back to Brian, who finishes washing his hands and strolls over. The anxious attentiveness of months before subdued. Joe had gone in to welcome the boy who stood in the living room of his new home, waiting for direction. His own nervousness was put aside when he saw the pale face under a faded cap. Even the freckles looked jaded. The shadowed eyes had caught themselves in the mirror of the night-blackened window. They looked back emptily, and Joe saw an aged weariness wrong on a child's face, and he warned to him from then. "This is Jamie," Katrina said, coming to stand sentinel beside him. "Jamie, this is Joe, Brian's father. He lives next door, so you'll see a fair bit of him." "Well, Jamie, you're very welcome." The slim hand flinched like fresh catch in a net in Joe's large coarsened one. "I'll show you your room and you can unpack." Katrina's eyes beamed hope. Jamie bent to the black holdall, big enough to shelter him in. As he lifted it across his shoulder, a bandaged wrist peeked out. Coming in now, Joe slides off his boots in the boot room and hushes Joxer, muddy and uninvited, at the back door. Their own dog, an ornamental thing, was bought to fill the silence after years of attempts to fill the 3 spare bedrooms. One was converted into an office around the same time as Sheila whispered to him that there'd be no more rounds. He saw the grief grey on Katrina's face as her body expelled the hormone overload. A change came on Brian too for a while, a fecklessness about the sheep and fencing and other jobs he would have taken some pride in before. Sheila and himself swallowed their own disappointment and didn't let on. She would have made a fine granny for the boy. Well, he greets the room. Get down, he pats at Dory as she jumps, yelping at him. Joe, wait and you see what Brian said I can get for Christmas. Jamie nods to the laptop, where Joe sees a spire-shaped contraption. It's a drone. The secondary school uniform swamps him. The slim wrist, finally on bandage in the summer, nudges out of the tunnel puffs as his hand navigates the pictures. I'll be able to fly over the farm, help you watch the sheep. Oops. A flying sheepdog, is it? Joe winks at him before pulling out a chair. What'll Joxer make of that? Jamie opens Google Maps and shows him the farm from above. This is what it'll see, kind of, but closer in, I'd say. Joe surveys his land for the first time from the sky. The aerial photos still hanging in his hall show their old Toyota Corolla parked beside the blue of Sheila's hydrangeas, but the barn and the sheds had been painted over in livid green. How long ago would that have been done, he asks Jamie, before he directs back to the east, hovering over the Sitka plantation, clear rows visible. That's a few years ago now, he points out the difference in the tree growth. They move west and south and he sees the house, the red tractor in the yard. The shed roof wasn't done yet, and look, the garden here is still rubble. It must be about 8 years ago so. He gets Jamie to show him how to use it, and later at home he spends the evening traversing the lands around him, zooming in and out, before accidentally switching to road view, where he sees a blur of Patsy, his neighbour, cutting his front grass. He spends hours pivoting on the local lanes, finally acknowledging to himself that it's a picture of Sheila, captured on one of her walks he is searching for. Over the spring months, once the fences are fixed, they begin planting. Brian worries about the reduced grazing for the sheep, but they agree to reduce the flock over the year. Jamie collages his drone photos showing the progress. Joe's energy is renewed as the field takes on the summer's colour and textures, but his resentment towards the bordering plantation increases. That will be his next job. When he finds the owner, his offer is declined. Well, he'll offer a bit less for it next year. After an autumn storm passes, some of the young trees nod to the east. A spruce leans heavily across the hedge, threatening collapse. Joe surveys the potential invasion and decides to cut it down. He recruits Jamie from his midterm boredom. They follow the hedging into a gap, and they makeshift a stile with a plank of wood. Felling the tree parallel to the uneven line of the hedge, Joe uses the chainsaw to remove the lower branches. What will we do with the wood? Jamie says, dragging the long branches along the hedge. Well, it'll make decent firewood, and we could maybe make a tree house for the babby. Joe looks up, awaiting a response, but Jamie fixes his eye to the task. The silence is broken by the chainsaw. Jamie's is locked tight. Katrina and Brian shared their news in the late summer. The ending of all efforts to conceive had yielded a surprise. It was due in February, but with no Sheila to talk it over with, Joe hadn't let himself dwell on it much. Now, a warm joy spread in him. Spring baby. Silencing the noise of the chainsaw, he shouts to Jamie, "Would you prefer a boy or a girl?" The boy pays no heed of him as he continues carrying armloads of logs along the hedge to where they would later collect them. Joe lays down the chainsaw and sits on the stripped end of the spruce. The white moons of severed branches dot its length. "What's up, Jamie?" "Nothing. Come here and take a break." Jamie bends to another load and doesn't meet his eye. "You're horrid quiet there." He keeps the lightness in his voice. "What's up?" He waits, then offers, "Is it the babby?" A flinch, as Jamie walks along the hedge, curled over the logs, gives him his answer. He waits for him to return, then slaps the trunk beside him. "Here, sit down." He hears more authority in his voice than intended, but Jamie responds and sits. "What's this now?" Are you not excited for the new baby? Sure, it'll be a big disruption and noisy as hell, I'm sure, but it'll be great too. Jamie's foot digs into the ground. What's worrying you, son? Jamie's head swings up as he side-eyes him. I'm not your son, though, am I? Or theirs. His voice is full of the readiness of adolescence. Joe watches the face turn away, the freckles on it now nearly as familiar to him as those on his own face. But you are my grandson now, whether you like it or not. And sure, this is your home now. He points to the field through a gap in the hedge. These trees are as much yours as they are mine, seeing as you planted them with me. Jamie's face stays down, but the foot stops digging. Joe puts his arm around him and wonders why he hasn't before. The shoulders, delicate as bird wings, tense under the jacket. And sure, it'll be years before the babby will be of any help. Come on now. While I was sitting here, I see a couple more of them trees in there that should come down before they do damage. I think we can get started on that before we get the sale agreed. He catches the boy's watery eye and winks before nudging him into action. We'll be busy for the winter. In the dead light, the pines bite them back, branches stabbing. They have to duck low to the base of the trunks. They make a narrow path like a vein through, slowly over months, mining one tree at a time. The drone photos show spots of light, faint stars in a dark sky.
Thanks very much. So, that's brilliant. Yeah. Thanks.
Was that a hint to get off the stage?
No.
No, I'm just going to finish up myself. But it's hard to follow that. That was just absolutely lovely. And I'm going to keep it very short, reasonably short. I wrote short stories before novels, and I miss them, and I'd like to get back to them. And I thought when I was going to read a little piece for you here tonight, I thought, I'll read the prologue to my first book, Snowstorm, because it was the most short story-like bit and the most fun I had in just indulging myself. So I thought I'd do that. So it's set in Edgeworth, in the Aran Islands. So, in the summer, the cliff divers come. They line up to leap fearless from the temporary diving board. They twist and spin, tumble like inverted fireworks that head not heavenward, but earthbound instead. They launch themselves from a platform extended from the cliff edge. The brave, or foolish, depending on who you talk to, men and women glide through the air one by one, falling with grace and trust into the mouth of the serpent's lair. This cliffside pool is carved from the island's limestone rock, by nature, not man. A rectangular pool. Millennia waves and fierce storms have formed this rectangular pool, a witchcraft explained away in former times by stories of a sleeping beast, a serpent resident resting within. Wide and deep, the pool is filled with seawater that crashes through underground channels to feed the swell, eager now to receive the divers. With the best seats in the house, the cliff diving birds, the cormorants, the guillemots, the jealous diving gannets, watch the strange featherless birds fall into the serpent's hungry maw. Cheers rise from the islanders and tourists who gather to watch the spectacle, feeling the sea breeze on their necks, the sun on their faces, a glorious way to spend a summer's day on their island on the edge of the world. An island that has no neighbour on its western coast, only the vast, lonely Atlantic, the very edge of Europe, the gateway to the New World. There are picnics and smartphones held aloft to capture the dramatic jumps. A day out for all the family. All the watchers feel the thrill of adrenaline as each competitor steps up to the platform, toes curled on the edge, Spectators hold their breath as the diver throws themselves off the board, just like the Gillimachi, a leap of faith and fear, falling through the air, hoping for the magic of flight and the welcome of the waves below. Waves that are less welcome now in the darkness of a winter's dawn. Daylight is hibernating like the frigid serpent below, sleepy and starved. Frozen gulls, the only spectators left, bored and huddled together for warmth, mutual protection from snow that's falling again. A few scatter at the noise, the grunts of effort, the muttered oaths from the shadows, and sound something heavy being dragged. But most of the birds remain disinterested, more concerned with surviving the gales and blizzards of the storm, with not being blown away into the vast ocean. They pay no attention until a different kind of diver is thrown from the cliff edge. As the wind that threatened to rage picks up, as the dark morning hours linger, this diver of a different kind falls. Arms not outstretched like an arrow to split the waves. These wrists are bound. Their eyes closed, not out of nerves or tension or concentration, but by death. They plummet, a graceless tumbling descent into the serpent's lair. A neck most likely broken on impact, an injury that at this point is a mere insult to the corpse. And with the crash and crack of the body hitting the water, the surprised birds scatter, prisoners caught between fright and the terrorizing weather. The shadow on the cliff edge looks down, willing the current to take the body out to sea through those underground channels, far away from here, leaving no trace. With one last look, they turn and make their way back, fighting the blizzard like the frightened birds.
Thank you very much, Tríona, and Sylvia, well done again. Well done. So now we're going to have an interval of about 10 to 15 minutes, and Emer and Andrew will be providing music again. Yeah? So will there be wine, Angela? It's out there, yeah. Yeah. You haven't drunk at all, have you? I have to watch it. Anyway, you can have a break now, and when you come back, and I'll tell you what's happening next, okay? Thank you very much. Take care, enjoy everyone.